Welcome to the 401k Marketing Podcast. Are you ready to be the go-to expert in the retirement plan community? Listen in as we share ideas, resources, and best practices that you can use to professionalize your firm, demonstrate your authority, and earn more 401k business.
Retirement plan marketing is what Rebecca Hourihan does. In fact, it's been the focus of her company for 10 years. Rebecca, that is a decade. Now, how does that make you feel, and what have you learned?
Old. That's the first thing it makes me feel is old.
Well, beyond that, you don't look old, okay? So let's go beyond that.
Oh gosh, 10 years ago, I'll insert every cliche you could imagine. Any business owner on this line, time flies in the blink of an eye. One day I was young and the next day my back hurt. Just how it goes. And that's what happened 10 years ago. I was a little over 10 years ago. I was sitting on the LPL consulting desk chatting with one of my favorite advisors. And one fateful day, we were chatting away and he said, or I asked him, I go, "What do you do for marketing? What do you do for marketing?" It's a super simple question. And he responded, "I don't know. I take some wealth management stuff here and I try and edit it so that way it says employer or plan sponsor, fiduciary, something in that regard. And then I try and post it online. So square peg, round hole."
Mm.
And then I asked, "What would you like to do for marketing?" And that question is the one that really opened up the door to say, let's create something cool. Well, let's do it our way. Let's not try and do square peg round hole, but actually create content that speaks to employers, plan sponsors, and directly to participants.
Have you ever regretted that decision?
Not 1 second.
Yeah.
I was chatting with another friend of mine, and they have not started a company. But they've been picking my brain actually for a decade now. And they go, "What is it feeling like?" And the most pure thing I can think of, and anyone who has started their own business or practice, let me know if you feel this way, if you relate to this. Remember being on a diving board? You're in the pool, you're getting in the pool and you're on the diving board and your feet are kind of bouncing back and forth and back and forth. And then the moment you spring to jump in the water, there's that half second you're in the air. And you don't know if you're going to beautifully grace your way into the water or belly flop. But no matter what, you're getting wet. It's that half second. I go, that's what it feels like when you first start a business. Because you don't know. And you're excited. And you know you're going to hit the water. So you got to be prepared.
Well, apparently it was communication. You were talking to people that sparked this in your mind and in your psyche. How important is communication?
Communication across every industry, anywhere you are in your life, is one of the most important things. And to try to speak at the same level of who you're speaking with. And that was always a core mantra and still is to this day. Relevant information, timely information, and speaking directly to the audience, not above, not below, but to the audience. And I think what happens a lot of times is our industry, which is a lot of number letter combinations, it gets really confusing really fast. And you always have to remember, who are you talking with? And then try to say, okay, if I were to explain this to someone who's not in our industry, how would I do it in the most clear, concise, relevant manner? And then that's your benchmark. That's your guiding star. One thing recently that I heard, and I really liked it, and I think this goes back, Patrice, to your question on the power of communication. It's good news is good. Bad news is fine. Surprises are what's
Mm.
bad. So no matter what, if you're communicating, always over communicate because you can always deliver bad news. No one likes to hear it, but at least you're being honest and upfront about it. But it's the surprises. And I always think about that in our industry and I'm not throwing anyone under the bus here, but a lot of times during plan conversions from one record keeper to the next, there's a lot of surprises. The way that that can be detailed out in a timeline, which could even be kind of more flexible with this is about when things are going to happen. That is a perfect example of this is how we expect it to go. This is how it might go. And then this is how it's actually going to go. So communication, good news is good. Bad news is fine. Surprises are bad.
Which also kind of gets into the issue of change. And change can be intimidating.
Yeah, I always say that change takes courage. And the other thing about change is when you get people talking about their goals, their aspirations, what does the 3 year, the 5 year, the 10 year look like? It starts to plant the seeds of change. And then you have to figure out what's our time, talent, and resources going to be behind the change and who's going to lead it. And then as change starts to take place, building out a prospect list, changing your website. Oh, it's so much work. Evaluating your onboarding process, looking at current client services and expectations, and then saying, hey, I think there's areas of opportunities of improvement here. Once that starts to be formalized and modified, you have to work with the people to make those adjustments. And people most of the time don't like to change.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes courage to consistently say, I know that we did this way forever. Let's try something new. The thing that comes to mind right now is cold calling. Cold calling has been around since the dawn of time, and it used to work super successful. There's no question about that. As our society has shifted to more social media, text messages, reels, videos, YouTube, email communications, there's still an avenue for cold calling, but how do you put it together so that way it's a component in a successful business development campaign? And all of that takes courage to implement.
All right. And you just talked about the big thing, the internet, social media, digital. Where do we go with that? That things have changed so dramatically in the last few years.
If you want to be in sales, you can't remain a secret.
True.
Take a look at your LinkedIn profile. Are you visible online? This is in the settings section. Google it. You can watch a quick YouTube video. There are so many advisors. When you look at their LinkedIn settings, they have restricted their profile to first and second degree connections. Why? If you're in sales, you can't be a secret. Change it. Be public, be visible. And then when you're visible, make sure that your profile looks amazing.
Mm.
LinkedIn gives you a heads up and says, this is what your profile would look to an internet, someone who's doing digital due diligence on you. And you have the ability to kind of toggle on, like, does my profile visible? My picture, yes or no? Is my banner, yes or no? My contact information. Make it so that way it's easy for when prospects look you up, when clients are looking for you, that they can easily find you, your contact information, the news that you're sharing. So that way they're feeling more and more confident. This is our expert retirement plan advisor. This is who we work with. I'm proud of that. And I want to refer you business. I want you to be in front of the people that are part of their business social circle. And then I'll double down on that for a second on social media. So 10 years ago, ballpark, social media was moving. People did it. It was fast. It was happening. But now social media, it feels like you're on this nonstop, very, very fast merry-go-round.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Posting, liking, commenting, updating the algorithm. It's changing. How is it changing? Messages. And sometimes there's that fear. How do I jump on? Like, what if I do it wrong? That's okay. That takes courage. Just committing to posting, once a month, once a quarter, something. It can be an article you created, a curated article, posting of like, commenting, or sharing. Most compliance teams now have linked up with Hearsay or
Mm-hmm.
one of the other compliance monitoring softwares to allow this. There's a lot of people in our industry who specialize in social media. Just book an hour with them. Hey, I'm thinking about doing this. How do I get started? What are like 3 tips? And then jump on the merry-go-round. It's worth it.
Can I share one pet peeve?
Yeah, of course.
When people post a picture of themselves that's 10 or 15 years old,
Mm,
mm, and
yeah.
then you actually meet them or see them,
Yeah.
my confidence kind of drops.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, it's true. And a lot of people say, well, I looked better a decade ago, or I still have the COVID-20. My hairline has changed a little bit. All super normal things. But if this is what you look like today, it's better to have that be a shining representation of who you are. Because as you just hit on, it's visual trust. And
Mhm.
everyone can tell if your photo's older than it should be. We professionally recommend less than 3 years old.
The trust factor, you're absolutely right. You hit it right on there. Yeah. And yet everything we see, I mean, advertisements, it's visual. Everything is visual.
Mm-hmm. There was a conference, oh God, whatever, 2015, it would, yeah, 2015. And I had a little game. It was at Wealth at Work in Vegas. And I had a game where 3 questions at the end of the presentation. And one of the questions was, how many advertisements do we see per day? So, I asked the audience, all right, audience, like, just yell out some numbers, like, let's have some fun. We're all friends here. How many advertisements do you see a day? Just yell them out. Come on, from the back. What do we got? And people would start, 100, 200, 500, 1,000. I'm like, per day. Come on. What do you think? 2,000? 2,000? The answer at the time, 2015, was 5,000 advertisements a day,
Wow.
visually bombarded with advertisements. A decade later, that number's doubled, 10,000 advertisements a day.
I believe it too. I do.
It's crazy. And advisors ask, how do you differentiate? How do you stand out? The first hurdle is just realizing that your content, your marketing, your visual identity is competing with 10,000 advertisements a day. So if you're just as a hypothetical example, if you create this one singular blog post, which is amazing and it's the best work you've ever done in your entire life, and you're super proud of yourself. Yes. Yes. I'm very proud of you too. And you push it out there and you're like, I did it. I did it. Hurrah. Keep doing it every month, because every month you have to remember you're competing with 10,000 advertisements a day. So that's why it's super important to have an organized marketing strategy that has consistent content that you're sharing on a regular cadence. So as you're in that 10,000 in front of people, you're going to start to stand out visually and then also content wise, because not everyone's producing 401k style content. So there's 2 differentiators. You have a visual differentiator because it's you, it's your brand, it's the front and center, and then also content style, the 401k industry.
You mentioned clarity and relevance at the beginning, and I'm seeing now, okay, you've got to get things out there. You don't want to bombard people, but you've got to be out there so they see you. Is it better to be simple in the way you're presenting things? What is too much? What isn't enough?
That's a complex question. A couple quick things. Our industry, roughly ballpark, has around 7,000 people in it. Ballpark. We service 700,000 retirement plans, and the majority of plan sponsors are not professional fiduciaries. They run their own businesses, whatever their expertise or specialty may be. And then employees. The
Mhm.
average person looks at their 401k statement. Well, if they look at it, they go online, it's 11 seconds. So like they log online to their, if they log online, there's a huge swath of people that don't even ever log on, but if they do, it's 11 seconds. So basically they like, they log on, they like blink their eyes, they get really nervous. They don't know if they should cry or smile. And then they X off like, they're looking at like a bad website, like, oh, I don't want to have anyone catch me. So when you're creating materials, think about how can I educate this employer in a way that they're gonna understand it. Education sells, by the way. If you can
Mhm.
clearly articulate and communicate what you're doing, education sells. And then on the employee side, so many folks struggle with just basic 101 debt, loans, student loans, budgeting. Don't skip those. Don't skip the basics. People need help. Yes, we are doing an awesome job with auto enroll, auto escalate, education around Roth, and that's going to push the needle. But when people come to you and they want to ask questions, a lot of times you might realize that they're not looking for advanced tax strategies. They might be, but the overwhelming majority of people aren't. They just want help. And the easier that you can give them and empower them with information that speaks with them, directly with them, the more confident they're going to be when the time is right and when they have moments and milestones that trigger financial action. They're going to think of you or your team. And that leads into the whole wealth conversion, retirement wealth conversion that we're kind of just starting to embark on over the
Yeah,
last
talk
couple
more
of
about
years.
that. Talk more about that.
Um, so no secret, we're retirement plans and wealth management. We're becoming friends again. There was a time where we separated ourselves and said, specialists, which is very much a good thing and very much true. Understanding the layers and complexities of fiduciary responsibility, setting up prudent processes, organization, having special software to help evaluate the funds, generate IPSs, and then do it on a quarterly monitoring basis. So all good, very good. But now we're starting to see that the convergence of wealth and retirement coming back together. It's really popular pre-Pension Protection Act of 2006. And then once we started to go down the fiduciary path in earnest in our industry, 2010-ish, we started to divide the sea, and now we're coming back. History, so to speak, is repeating itself. Not a bad thing, just what's going on. And in that context, how do you help? I think a lot of this has to do with like state mandated plans, Secure 2.0, the tax credits, and some of the mandated options that are out there now, where employers are basically being required to set up plans. Again, not a bad thing. It's good to have access to a retirement plan.
Mhm.
We don't have a lot of coverage in our country, and this is helping to solve that. Now we are charged with educating the employees. It's not easy, but it's worth it. We're right now in the midst of developing a pretty large wealth management component to our business called Moments and Milestones. And it's all about 15 to 20 different major moments and milestones that spark financial conversation for employees. So we've been working on it for probably 3 years now behind the scenes, and we're supposed to launch it sometime in July. So it's not easy for sure, but it's trying to put it together in a way that will give and empower employees when they have to make those major life changes or financial decisions, and you want to give them as much information, but also remind them that the call to action is to talk to a professional financial advisor.
Is this leading to more personalization?
Yes and no. I think that's personalization. That word is over, just like AI. I think it's oversubscribed. Personalized AI. What does that mean? I was joking around the other day with and someone said their company like fed all this information into some sort of AI generator, and they asked them to come up with tables so that they could figure out like prospecting list and like top scores. And the original person had built out all these like categories and like ranking systems, and they did it the old fashioned way with Excel and
Mm-hmm.
some other kind of metrics. And they said they fed all that into AI and they were super excited. Got complete garbage out of it.
Well,
I was like, Bruce, what did you expect? He goes, listen, I could have told you that. They wanted to try it. I was like, all right, cool. I love AI. I think it's lovely. It's super helpful to use. It's just not it. It's not the easy button that I think everyone thinks it should be. 10 years from now, 2034, AI is going to be a totally different animal. It'll be probably, we'll be laughing about what we thought it was today, because it's going to be change the world, which Internet 3.0, as they're calling it.
yeah. Well,
Point of my story. Go
it's a
ahead.
tool. It's a tool.
It's a tool. It's very powerful, and we'll see some really cool stuff coming in the next decade, and I'm excited for what that looks like. And it'll probably happen in the 401k world too. It's just we're not there yet. We'll get there. We're just not there yet.
Well, that was going to be my next question. Do you see it fitting into a process? Does it have to grow? Does it have to mature more AI before it can be added to a process? And why have a process?
So when you think about data, plan data, you have the person's name, where they where they live. Yeah, you have where they live. You have their average account, their actual account balance, how they're invested. You have their salary. And you could use outside information to glean probably credit score, former employers, like some like you married, single, widowed, divorced, kids. So you could probably gather in some external information to try and round out the corners for this person. But you still don't know the dollars, like the true dollars. The only platform I've ever seen it do this well is Mint, and they're not even around anymore. Um, so I don't know from a personalization standpoint unless we get the data. Like you gotta get the employees to feed it in, and there's a gap. There's a mistrust gap because if the employer knows that Alex makes 80 grand a year and Alex's spouse makes 300 grand a year, are you going to promote? Are you going to give Alex the raise? Is Alex okay? Does it change the way that employers think about their employees? I don't know the answer to that, but these are things that my friends and I talk about when we're drinking wine um, on a regular basis. So we got to figure out how we can enhance the bridge of trust to get people to put that information in there.
So
What are your
talking
thoughts on that? You enter in all your outside assets. How would you
um
do that?
to be honest, I don't think I'm on top of all my outside assets. And that's not good either when you come right down to it. You should know what you have.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Then I would have to go do some research. I am saying I'm lackadaisical about it. Kind of
I wonder
scary.
if that's how the other thing you just mentioned, I've got friends who on purpose keep their 401k plan on purpose at their old employers.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, that why would they do that?
It's like they think it's being
Savings?
diversified, not all your eggs in one basket.
But you have
They
to look
just,
and see what is in the account, what's being invested.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. Well, I have no idea. I'll ask them that next time. But I have heard my friends say that many times, like, "Oh, I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket." I'm like, "That's not what that. I mean,
Yeah.
I get what you're saying, but that's not really what that means." Yeah, they want to keep their. There was a Cerulli report that came out, which I find very intriguing. 72% of people keep their money in their former employer.
See, that I don't get. I do not understand that at all. You could end up, what am I say? You could end up paying fees. You could end up
Yeah, sure. Hmm.
forgetting about it, and you don't want to forget about it. Although I just said I'm lackadaisical there, so that's talking against myself. You really should know what you've got.
I think I've been public about this. My dad passed away in September, and so we've been going through all of the different accounts and trying to figure out and there's, everyone's parents have like a secret folder paperwork and some behind a painting, and you're like, okay, I never would have guessed this. And passwords are just hilarious. So if anyone hasn't done that with their family, please go through
Yeah.
the gut-wrenching pain. It is it's not fun, but you learn about all the intricacies of the different places that people store their money and how challenging it is because some companies have their own paperwork, which is normal and fine, accepted. But then how do you get a person on the phone? It
Yes.
becomes lots of hurdles, and everything takes time to figure it out. What I'm getting to is that if you haven't sat down with your spouse or your parents, like,
Do it.
do it. Yeah.
Seriously. Yeah.
Saves and encourage your clients to do the same thing, because when you have to actually go through it and you don't have the other person telling you where the secret paperwork is in
Or,
the
or,
attic.
or the passwords.
Oh
I
yeah.
think that's the new bugaboo these days. Yes, you've got
Hmm.
the secret papers or the little envelopes that are tucked here and there,
Uh,
but the passwords. I will share a story with you. My dad died a couple of years ago and had lots and lots of points racked up on one of his credit cards.
huh.
My mother had no clue what the password was. And despite entreaties and speaking with the company, no, those points are gone. Another company was very worked with us, and yes, she got those points, but this was a lot.
Oh, that stinks. That's
It does.
terrible.
It does. Yep.
Huh.
Yep. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Talk to your clients, talk to your people, talk to your parents.
Hmm. It's a whole
All right.
session right there.
It is. Yes. All right. We've been looking at the past there, but talk to me about the future, Rebecca.
The future is exciting. It's coming soon. And we're going to continue to grow and evolve in an industry. We touched slightly on AI. There's no secret that's going to continue to blossom in ways that we can't even imagine. The importance of communication, make it simple, talk with your person, your clients, your prospects, your COIs, the employees. Change takes courage. Embrace it. It's messy, but you'll be happy once you go through it. And I look forward to celebrating these milestones and looking forward together.
Mm-hmm.
So thanks everyone so much for listening to today's podcast, and cheers to 10 more years.
And before you go, how can people reach you?
Oh, Rebecca at 401k-marketing.com, or I'm always hanging out on LinkedIn.
All right. And of course, follow, share the podcast, share with colleagues. And as Rebecca said, thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much for listening to today's 401k Marketing Podcast. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of our guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of 401k Marketing. The content has been available for informational and educational purposes only. We hope you enjoyed.